And thanks a lot for the invitation to be part of your World Soil Day today in Denmark. Too bad I can't be with you physically, but the corona situation is quite difficult at the moment, so I prefer to be at home in my office, and I hope I can share some knowledge and some crazy or stupid things with you. And let's start. For the connection, for the sound, everything is okay. Is that okay for you? If yes, I keep on going. Okay. 2 or 3 words to myself. I'm Reto Minder. I'm 46 years old, and I'm a farmer, not a scientist. And I live 30 kilometers in the western part of Bern, the capital city in Switzerland. Since 1997, we started with direct drilling with no-till, and until then we developed our farm. We keep on going to develop into the CA system. Otherwise, like a Swiss guy is usually, we go skiing and snowboarding in the winter time and hiking in the summertime. And if I got still some time, I go with friends and I do some athletics. I'm married and we got a 10 years old daughter. Since 2015, I'm also president of Swiss No-Till. That's the organization in Switzerland, the No-Till organization. I will introduce you Swiss No-Till a few seconds later on. My main topics today, that's the presentation of Swiss No-Till. A few words to conservation agriculture. My no-till evolution on my farm, what we did the last 24 years. And some conservation cropping of planted and sown special crops, mainly for Brussels sprouts, tobacco and carrots. Relay intercropping, I will show you some slides, and the outlook. I will have a lot of slides, especially a lot of pictures afterwards. But like this, I can show you what we do on my farm or what we did in the past. Swiss No-Till, who and what is Swiss No-Till? It was founded in 1995 by farmers and contractors. It was Wolfgang Sturny. Maybe some people or some of you know him. He brought the no-till into Switzerland, and he was also one of the founders of the IG no-till. In 2000, the IG was transformed into an association, and now it's called Swiss No-Till, Swiss Society for Soil Conservation Agriculture. We got around 330 members, and all the committee, we work for free. It's like we got a very small budget, and everyone is working for free. But we are on the way to get out of this. We would like to move more, we would like to do more, we would like to transform our knowledge to farmers, and to do that we need more money, we need more resources to do that. But we are on the way to get more professional. What is conservation agriculture? At the beginning, from Swiss no-till, we always were talking about direct drilling or no-till. it was just the machinery, the main topic. But after the years, we recognized that direct drilling or no-till is more than just machinery. It's more a concept, it's a system. And like worldwide, CA is practiced over more than 200 millions of hectares. We lean always our CA system to the definition of FAO. They defined the CA. And sometimes also in Switzerland, some people talk about regenerative agriculture, but we have to look in North of America or in the United States or in Germany. Regenerative agriculture is different. In the German part of Europe, it's mainly Nasser and Wentz. They talk about regenerative agriculture with hoes, with working the soil, and in the north of the states, they know the regenerative agriculture different, I would say. So it's a little bit tricky. It's based on 3 principles. This picture is in German, but it's also, you can find it also on our Swiss no-till homepage. It's no-till.ch. But I will give you the 3 pillars in English. The first pillar is minimum soil disturbance. The second is permanent soil cover with crop residues or living mulch. And the third pillar is diverse crop rotations with cover crops and undersown crops. It's mainly the biodiversity of plants. Minimum soil disturbance, the first pillar, that means no-till. Maximum 25% of the surface is moved by drilling. And it means also no active soil work. That means sowing into untilled soil. No active tillage, and it can look like this, sowing into a cover crop. The second pillar, ground cover. Aim for maximum soil cover. That must be the goal. Cover, cover, and cover again. In nature, it's not preview to not cover the ground. Nature will always cover the soil. Crop residues, living mulch, cover crops, undersowing, relay crops. Can look like that. That's one of my fields, one of my trials. These are the Brussels sprouts we were planting into a rye cover crop. I will show you later on some pictures how we did that. The third pillar, plant species diversity. Varied crop rotation. In the past, we had to learn that when your rotation on only 2 or 3 crops, then it's very hard to be successful in CA. You need a very diverse crop rotation to be successful in your rotation. Different plant families, cover crop mixtures with different species. Undersowing, mixed crops. Can look like this with different varieties in a cover crop. That's a picture from Zollikofen. Some of you maybe know in Zollikofen, it's close to Bern. It's Over there, it's the Oberacker, it's named, and it's more than 20 years. It's a comparison to plowing and conservation system. No-till evolution. Now I will talk about my farm, what we did the last 24 years on my farm. A few words to my farm. It's quite small in Switzerland. The average size in Switzerland is around 20 hectare. And on my farm, we got 40 hectare. With my crops, the sprouts and the tobacco, these are my cash crops. And I also got a heating system with wood chips to heat different or many houses in the village. Workforce, myself, and I got a Swiss employee and some seasonal workers from Poland. My parents are still working on the farm, and we got around approximately 4 full-time positions who are working on the farm. The farm area, 40 hectares and 14 hectares of forest. And 2 horses, but that's a hobby, we call it. The crop production this year, winter wheat, 5 hectares. And that's the label we produce for, that's integrated production Swiss. That mean the wheat, we don't treat it with insecticides, without fungicides, and without, how was the name? When you, CCC, maybe you know the name of CCC, to reduce the length of the wheat, it's also forbidden. Pure spelt, we produce for the same label, and the sugar beets as well. Also in the sugar beets, it's only allowed to spray herbicides. All the rest is not allowed to spray. Some grain maize, then close to 10 hectares Brussels sprouts, tobacco, virgin, and burley. Virgin is the one you dry in the oven, and the other one, the burley, you dry by air. Some pastures and extensive meadows. My rotation, it's a 6-year crop rotation. We start with winter wheat. Then we drill a cover crop, and it's very important to drill the cover crop immediately after the harvest without losing time to get an advance to the failure cereals, to get into a good cover crop, because we drill it like a main crop, the cover crop, because it's very important to have a good cover crop for the next crop. The next one, after the cover crop, we don't mulch, we don't till, we leave it like this over the winter time. In the springtime, we put Brussels sprouts in, and after the sprouts, we also mulch the crop residues to avoid the white flies and all the other insects we got problem with. After the Brussels sprouts, because they are harvested late in the year until December or January, then we drill in springtime the maize. Also after the maize we mulch to avoid the fusarium and the corn borer. After the maize in springtime, tobacco. We also mulch the crop residues. After that, winter wheat or spelt. Again, cover crop. And at the end, sugar beet, and the rotation keeps going, start again. How we put in this rotation? Winter wheat, it's direct seeding, no-till drilling. Then the cover crop as well, direct seeding, no-till drilling. And maybe I have to say the straw we carry away from the winter wheat. We don't leave the straw on the field, because in my area or in the most areas of Switzerland, we have a lot of animals. We need, the farmers need the straw. So I give the straw away and the manure comes back to my farm. So the Brussels sprouts, we do a strip tilling and then we plant with a modified vegetable planter. I show you later on the pictures. The grain maize is direct drilling with a no-till planter. The tobacco, same way like the Brussels sprouts. And then again, the winter wheat, direct seeding, no-till, the cover crop, no-till, the sugar beets, also no-till. So we started in 1997 with direct sowing or drilling of a spring oat after maize. That was the beginning, because at this time I was a trainee in Australia, and when I came back, I thought we need to do something else than all the other farmers. It has to be easier to build, to work on the farm, and also the soil at this time, it was also important, but it came all this year more and more important, I have to say. So we started with direct drilling. Then we kept on going. We tried to drill all the crops in no-till, and only the Brussels sprouts and the tobacco we did mulch tillage. That means all the surface was worked. And then we tried to reduce more and more the work on the soil. At the beginning, we tried with some strip rotary hoes. And to minimize the risk, we tried on some trials, and year after years, we get used to it. We got more confident, and so we implemented this system into the other rotation. Because for special crops, you don't have machinery. It's not, you can't buy it on the market. The no-till drills are available, the no-till planter as well, but special machinery for vegetables or special crops are not available in no-till. So we developed our machinery ourselves. Then we started with strip till. The different to the rotary hoe is the rotary hoe is active soil working, and the strip till is passive, we say, just a dent who is passing the ground. Then we did some other trials with non-selective herbicides, use of roller crimper, herbicide-free we tried, and we started the coltan fertilization in the winter wheat. I don't know, I guess coltan is you know what coltan is, I guess. I hope so. If not, we can talk about later on. Then the trials of Brussels sprouts in winter rye. You saw a picture just before. More and more we try to reduce herbicides or in generally pesticides, because it's a demanding in the market in Switzerland. Everyone wants to buy products without pesticides. This year we had an initiative. They want to avoid pesticides all over Switzerland. That hopefully, no, not hopefully, it was good that it was not, how to say, I can't find the word. We keep on going. I'm sorry. Relay intercropping we started in 2019 with clover mixtures and soybean. I will show you later on the pictures. And as well, we built our own coltan fertilization machinery for the special crops. And this year we started with relay intercropping with carrots and soybeans and undersowing in spelt with drone. I will show you the pictures soon. So that's a picture of my daughter. One of the key parts in CA is are cover crops. And it's really important to get very good cover crops because that's like the soil preparation for your next crop. And we should use the sun and the photosynthesis in time and produce following will thank you. That's what we did in the past with the roller crimper. We drill straight into the cover crop, direct drilling with a Kuneste. There are different machinery on the market. We had good experience with this machine here, but it depends how are your soils, then you have to choose a different one. And the machinery is not the main criterion, it's more the whole concept who is more important than the machinery. A few pics of this sowing, of this direct drilling. We use the freezing in winter time, so all the components of the cover crop freeze. And usually in winter time we got enough, it's called enough to let them freeze, the cover crops. 2 or 3 winters ago, we had a mild winter, and then it can happen that not all the cover crops are freezing. And especially when the cover crops are small, when they are not developed enough, it's harder to kill them by frost. That's in January, and that's a little bit later on. These are the sugar beets. Some pics of the sugar beets we drill into a cover crop. And like I said before, when you drill your cover crop straight after the cereal harvest, the cover crop is very clean. That means without herbs, it's just the cover crop who is developed. So in springtime you can avoid glyphosate, like on this picture we didn't use glyphosate in springtime. Another picture from the sugar beets, and a little bit later when the sugar beets are established. Same with maize, direct seeding. Yeah, these are the not the special crops, and now I would like to show you some or tell you about some special crops, my special crops, the tobacco and the Brussels sprouts. It was quite hard to implement these crops into this CA rotation. The goal is always to have the advantage of the conservation agriculture, of the conservation crop system, and it was always a goal to integrate this into CA, because in Switzerland, or mainly not always in Switzerland, it's hard to find special crops into a CA system. All the big crops, it's known, it's common, but with special crops, it's quite hard to put these crops into a CA system. In Switzerland, we have a lot of problems with soil erosion, mainly water erosion and not wind erosion. The increased carrying capacity of the soil harvest is also an argument when you put special crops into a rotation like that. And the goal has to be the quality and yield must be at least equal or higher than conventional cropping. The reduction of workload is also one argument, because we can decoupling the workload. So the strip tilling we do early in springtime, and it's not the data important, it's more the soil. When the soil is in a good condition, we do the strip tilling. Doesn't matter if it's January or February, and the plantation is later on in springtime. So the soil gives us the pace when we do the work on the soil. The challenges are the calculation of the risk with special crops, because in Brussels sprouts it's more than 10 times or 15 times more yield in cash than with wheat or maize. The technical practicability, like I said, the technology is not available on the market. The know-how is not available. We are developing the know-how ourselves. The weed control is quite difficult, because with a lot of residues or living mulch, the weed control is quite difficult. Yeah, that goes into the same way. Mechanical weed control is hard in a CA system. And the other solution is, or my way I would like to go is finding suppression plants, a living mulch, so we don't need to weed mechanically or chemically. And slugs can also be a problem, but at the beginning it was more a problem than now. After years and years with a CA system, also the slugs get into a balance. That's the way we started. It's band tillage, or strip rotary hoe, we call it. It's used to in Switzerland mainly for maize. They hoe the bands and then they drill maize into it. That's why that's how we started years ago. And that's, yeah, after the work and after planting, as you can see, it's still a lot of ground who is disturbed, who is worked. It's 25 to 30 centimeters where you have worked soil, and that was still too much for me. We tried to reduce more and more the work on the ground. It's getting better. And that's how it looks a few months later. That's how we started at the beginning. That's an old monosem planter. We tried to build our own strip till machinery because of the risk. We didn't know if it's working or not, so we started to build our own machinery with old steel. And the first year it was working with this machinery. Some components of an old John Deere planter with row cleaners from Jetter and a dent from Kuhn Strieger. So we mixed some components to a machine. That was at the beginning. And if the soil is okay, if the structure is good, in good shape, then you don't need a lot of machinery or a lot of soil work on it. And when the soil is not in a good condition, then you have to work more on the ground. The same after corn, where we put tobacco in. After a few months, it looked like that, with all the residues from the maize still on the ground. That's the planter, where we, the vegetable planter, where we plant the Brussels sprouts. We adapted also the machinery with a double disc opener in the front, with the seat on this part of the machine, so we got more weight on the disc. And this opener here, it's to put in the fertilizer just beside the planting line, around 5 centimeters beside, so it gets no risk to burn the plants. It's another view from a detail view from the planter, the double disc, and the opener for the fertilizer dent. We need to plant quite deep, around 10 to 12 centimeters, and that's a main difference to direct drilling or direct planting. A plant have a different need than just the corn you put in the ground. We also tried to plant the Brussels sprouts straight into the ground without strip tilling, but it didn't work because the plant is already growing, and where the speedy, we call these plants speedling or seedlings, and then the roots are already developed, so it's harder to keep on going when there is not enough fine soil or materials to start growing. So the best results we've got with strip tilling. And that's another trial. We tried with no freezing cover crops with wedges, winter wedge, and we tried to destroy them with the roller crimper. Now I need to get the... So we tried to plant straight after the strip tiller, but it's a different strip till machine. So we tried to really move the ground just the minimum and destroy at the same time the wedge, but it didn't work very well, as you can see later on. In the front of the vegetable planter, we put some water and compost tea to each planting, to each Brussels sprout. That's really a low till. As you can see, the wedge kept on going. Yeah, kept on going, and then we had to regulate them with a herbicide, because we were not able to destroy the wedge with the roller crimper. Some other cover crops varieties, it works quite good, but with the wedge, it didn't work. And that's the way we do it normally on my farm. That's planting the tobacco. Sorry. The tram lines we drill a year before with clover and grass. So it's easier to get into with the machinery, and between the tram lines we put a cover crop in. That's the Brussels sprout, the same way, and that's now standard on my farm, how we do it with these two special crops. The harvest as well, we harvest with a Brussels sprout harvester with caterpillars, so we protect the soil very good, and then we are able to drill maize in springtime in direct drilling without work on the ground, on the soil. What else we do? I told you we use compost tea since 2018. Maybe we can talk later on. We use soil analysis according to Kinsey since 2014. That's a very important part, I think, because we need to get the chemistry of the ground in a well balanced system. If the chemistry is not balanced, then you can't move on with the microorganism. You can't move on with the biological system in the soil. So the chemistry, in my opinion, is the first thing. It has to be balanced, and then you can keep on going. So we put the last years a lot of magnesium on our soils, because we have light soils, a lot of sand, low humus, around 2 and 2.5% of humus on my soils. The farmyard manure we talked. The traversability has priority. We don't go into the field when it's too wet. Also with the sugar beet in the autumn time, we take them out when the conditions are good, and not when the factory demands the sugar beets. So we take them usually earlier out, to take them out in good conditions and to drill the wheat afterwards. And like I said before, only a consistent application of CAL will lead to success in the long term. When you work on your soil, when you work the ground, you keep on starting again. You go back to field 0 or field 1. You have to go like a red line without tilling. Getting more green and green, more crops, more biodiversity, more different plants. I think that's the way to go. And the resilience is very important. When the system is working, the resilience is increased. When it gets dry or when it gets wet. This year we had a very wet year in Switzerland. We had around 500 millimeters in between 2 months in the summer months, and that was just too much. But you couldn't see the difference between a CA field or a conventional field. That's the compost tea machine I used to make compost tea myself. Like I said, we bring out the compost tea with the planting machine, and also we spray the wheat and the sugar beets in springtime with compost tea. It's not a scientific way, but we try. Like I said, 2018 I started with compost tea, and it's hard to say if we got advantage with this compost tea or not, but it's very cheap to make it, so we keep on going. And that's one of the ingredients we use. We use EM, that's effective microorganism. We put this one in, and also a compost we put in silicates, rock powder, we put in sugarcane melasse, yeah, different things we put in to do the compost tea ourselves, but it's quite cheap to do it yourself. Some words to relay intercropping. Why we started with relay intercropping, like I told you before, usually when you harvest your cereal or our cereal in summertime, the plants are dead, the field is empty, there is no green plant on the ground. On the field we have a lot of sunshine in summertime, and there is no green plant on the field. So even we got small paddocks in Switzerland, but also then it's still a monocrop, it's a monoculture. And we try to follow one crop to the next and let grow the following crop into the first one. In nature, such monocrops doesn't exist. So the model is like the forest with more biodiversity, more different plants, and that should be the model or the goal in agriculture systems. But it's not easy, and when you like to mechanize this system, it's quite difficult. But we started, and we are on the way. Also, the space is better used with a relay cropping system. Like I said several times, the ground should be permanently covered with vegetation, because to rise up, to increase your soil, it's only a plant can do that, never a machinery. It's only the plant who can increase your soil. That's I said already. That's the way we started with not a second crop, but with a cover crop, and we call it like biotill. That would say in the lines we have a different crop than in between. So in these lines we planted the Brussels sprouts the next year, and in between there is a mixture with grass and clover, and in the lines we got a freezing cover crop with Phacelia, Alexandriner clover, what else? Serradella, Goizottia, all different crops, all the different plants. That's also one way to undersow in maize a crop, a cover crop a little bit later. And this one we can take into the next year. So where the maize plants are standing now, the following year, it's like a Brussels sprout or a tobacco plant. So we like to keep on this green plants from one to the next year with undersowing. Or the other way is then with a different crop like wheat or soya. I will show you soon. That's the undersowing in the Brussels sprouts a little bit later. One thing is to avoid bad weeds, the weeds, and the other way is to for the white flies in Brussels sprouts. We got a lot of problems with white flies, and the trials were to having less white flies with undersowing plants. To mow this undersowing, to keep them down, we tried some robots. This one, and then a mower behind, and the result was like this. So we had to mow in between the plants, the rows each week to keep the undersowing on the ground, not to having too much yield loss for the Brussels sprouts. But as you can see, the the yellow clover is keep on going. Usually the yellow clover should stay on the ground, but when he got light and nutrients enough, he's going up also. That's the goal when everything goes right. Then we have now the Brussels sprouts are 1 meter high, and the clover is still down here. That's was a success, but it's not always like that. We had more success with clovers than with grass. The grass takes a lot more of nutrition and water out of the ground. The same with in the tobacco. And that's the cool down machinery we developed ourselves for the Brussels sprout and the tobacco. So we we put the ammonium depot in between the rows, so we can put the nutrition very precise between the rows. That's barley, also in relay cropping when we drilled it in autumn time. And that's after in springtime, where we passed with the strip till machinery to prepare the carrot seeding for the intercropping. That was the seeding for the carrots. The barley was quite high because the spring was too wet. We couldn't go into it. Then it was quite late to drill the carrots. That's another view from the carrot drilling between the barley rows. That's when we harvested. Then at the 20th of July, we harvest with a combine harvester, a common combine harvester, and the straw we put it over the top of the carrots, and that was a little bit later in summertime. You can still see the residues from the barley between, and the carrots. I was quite happy with this system this year. It was the first time, and it's not always successful, but this year it was fine, and we do the trials next year in wheat, because the barley closed quite a lot on the top. So we had not enough light for the carrots. That's why we try next year with in the wheat, between the wheat, because the wheat stays more vertical than the barley. That was the harvest of the carrots. We were not sure if it works, but it worked. And we were quite happy for the first year. That's how we do the, the spraying between the rows in a relay cropping system. Between these lines here, we drilled soya. And here we do the herbicide application for the soya. With droplets, maybe you know the system. Every 75 centimeters is a droplet. That's a little bit later. The soya is coming up, and that's before harvest. The soya is quite high, and then we we harvest the wheat away, and the soya can keep on going, growing. That's another trial. We tried a drone to put a cover crop in before the harvest. We put the crop in mid of June when the spelt into a spelt field. When the spelt getting lower, when you get more light on the ground, we put the sowing in with a drone. This year it was working because we had that much rain, but it's not really secure. But because when it gets dry into summertime, it may be it's too dry for the cover crop. But it was a trial, and this year it worked. But maybe next year we keep on going with direct seeding. Some outlook, what we like to do or what we try. We earned the last 5-6 years field maps with with the yields, and I would like to use these field maps for the special crops to put the fertilizer more specific, and to get a better yield and more homogeneous quality for my special crops. The expansion of relay cropping into other crops, soya and carrots, is only one crop or two crops, and the goal must be to having a relay cropping rotation and to keep on going all the time to get the advantage of a relay cropping system, to having always a living plant on the field without loss of sunlight, of photosynthesis, to increase your soil and your microorganisms. Use of biostimulants, we already started. I used some homeopathic products in the Brussels sprouts. We keep on going with trials to avoid chemistry, to avoid fertilizer. And the fine-tuning of micronutrients according to Kinsey, like we did with the main nutrients by Kinsey, we have to make a fine-tuning with the micronutrients also. And trials with diverse undersown crops, maybe the micro clover Jan and Annette told me about in Denmark. Maybe we should try also the micro clover in Switzerland. Yeah, that's some pictures and ideas from my view. Thanks for your attention, and yeah.